Hey, it's Rick. How you like the hair? Told you I was running in. Grab a haircut, but this week I'm going to be traveling a lot, so just left the bank. Now I want to continue this conversation that we're having about radio right now. One, because I absolutely love radio. That's where I got my start. There was nothing more exciting than being able to get up in the morning and entertain your community. You know, as you guys see how I am, I'm kind of a goofball, and I enjoyed that time on the radio. I also created something that a lot of you might not be aware of, called the Nashville to You radio tour. And what I did with that was that I was able to take acts that were at the bottom of the chart that no one had really started playing yet or even heard of, and I created this run in California. And that's what actually put me on Big Machine's radar and all the record companies' radars, is that I'm the guy who will go out and figure out what the problems are and then come up with some sort of solution. It may not always be the right solution, but I at least try. I'm not one of those guys that just sits around and bitches about all the problems and that does nothing about it. That's just not how I roll. So the question that I had when I brought this up was, why is it, when you're out on radio tour, here's what's going to happen, is you're going to be brought into these radio stations. You may or may not ever get your song played on the radio. Sometimes you'll show up at these radio stations and they may forgot that they had an appointment with you, and you may have driven 500 miles. You may have spent $3,000 to get there. That's been known to happen. You may or may not get to perform in a conference room. You may or may not get anything. It may just be a courtesy visit. So I'm sitting there going, okay, so they're hauling them through these radio stations. They're kind of coming through on their visits, but at no time are they ever putting them in front of an audience. So I asked the question, why? And I got a couple different answers. A couple answers were, well, no one will show up. 2, they're not prepared to be able to play for an hour. They've only got a couple songs, which I'm sitting there going, why the hell did you sign somebody anyway who's only got a couple songs? That's one of the mistakes that I talked about earlier. And I said to them, well, here's the deal, is you guys are ultimately trying to impress me, and I may play it, but I'm not the one who buys it. I said, ultimately, wouldn't you want to see if your artist could deliver in front of a fan base? And they were like, oh, what a concept. So what I did is I called a bunch of my radio buddies and I said, listen, if I can get us an act, they'll be at the bottom of the charts, they'll be a new artist, but can we create some kind of new program where we can bring these artists through on a consistent basis? I said, and what I need to be able to get them $1,500, 3 hotel rooms and dinner. Now at the time, record companies were giving these shows away. They were like, there's no way you'll get radio to pay, blah, 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 blah. We have to pay radio. And I said, the problem is you guys are talking to the wrong person in the building. If I create a program that the sales manager can go out and sell, then all of a sudden I'm being told what act I need to play in order to support that show. So then they went, oh, okay. So the deal that I would make with the radio stations is like, look, I'm not saying you got to play the song all the time, but I'm saying you do have to support the act. If you're not interested in supporting the act, no problem. We'll go find somebody else who is. I'm big on just kind of laying my cards out up front. A lot of people kind of tiptoe around things. I've never been that person, and that's why I don't get jammed up a lot, is because I kind of know what we got going in, and I encourage you to do that in any capacity that you're watching this, is just kind of lay it out on the line first. So if they say no, we'd go to another one. So I lined up all these great radio stations. I had my station in San Ynez, right there in Santa Barbara. I had Santa Maria, San Luis Obispo, San Jose, Sacramento, Fresno, Tulare, Bakersfield. You could kind of just go up the 101 and back down the 5. And I got flown out to Nashville. We talked about, I had this idea, and everybody loved it. And then all of a sudden I go back home to California and nobody calls. And there's nothing no activity. And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys love this idea. I've got radio stations waiting to give you money, waiting to give you airplay. And that's when I learned that it's busy here. People have tunnel vision. They're in their own worlds trying to get things done. So what I had to do now was even go one step further. I had to figure out how to solve people's problems. That's the big thing in anything. If you can solve a problem, you become a very popular person. So I called him up again. I'm like, look, the act will make $7,500. The first $1,500 will pay to fly him out there and pay for the player, and then they get to keep the rest. I said, no one else. I said, most young artists don't ever make money, much less get paid out on radio tour. So I told them that, and the next thing you know, I get a call, and they said, hey, we've got this kid. He's got this song. It's doing okay on the secondary radio. Major market radio won't really touch it yet. But if it can work in California, it can work anywhere. And I said, well, who you got? And they said, well, it's Josh Turner. And the song's called Long Black Train. And now I was already playing the song because I lived in an area, my town loves God. There's no problem playing songs with God in it. So Josh Turner was the first act we took out. It was awesome. Then I took out Sugarland, Julie Roberts, Jamie O'Neill, Little Big Town, Rodney Atkins, Pat Green. All the Texas acts started doing really well. And then that opened up opportunities for me to go into Big Machine Records. And the reason that I'm saying this to you right now is what I had to do is I had to run and create relationships in a small area where I could deliver results. And I was able to deliver results with the Nashville to You tour because I focused on the state of California. So then the Nashville to You tour, all these other radio stations, they had me speak on a panel at CRS, and all these other radio stations started wanting to get involved with it. And I tried, and I had one in Wisconsin, and then trying to get 4 or 5 others to do it didn't make sense, and then people would go up. So I learned the hard way trying to get too big too fast and spread out. So that's why I really like to focus on becoming a regional success story. And you can go build relationships. It doesn't have to be with the biggest relationship or the biggest radio station in that town. It can be with a few small stations in that town. Start generating some activity in those smaller markets. Stop by the radio stations and say, hey, I'd love to just stop by and say hello. It's much easier to get a meeting with someone when they know you're not asking for anything. Or just stop by and drop off a package at the front and then, tweet the program director or the jock or whoever's in charge. In a lot of those smaller markets, the program director also has an on-air shift. So start making requests on their show. Start participating in their show. Start letting them see your name over and over again and make these relationships. And whenever you're in the area, always at least try to stop by to say hello without being there to ask for anything. They'll really appreciate that. And that's what would happen for me. I got the reputation as a program director of being a guy that would support local musicians. And the reason that I did that is because I knew Carrie Underwood and Rascal Flatts and Tim McGraw weren't coming to my radio station, but I figured, man, if I got in early on an artist, they might come by and start supporting my radio station. And that's what happened. My little radio station started getting treated like a major market radio station, and I was being invited to all the parties, and I was being talked to by all. When I'd walk around Country Radio Seminar, a lot of the very important people at these record companies knew who I was because I was out there making a difference for their younger acts. It's real easy to get behind the superstars. It's really hard to get behind a young act. So as a young act, what do you need to do in order to get a radio station to look at you? First, have radio-ready material. Most of your songs would not sound good on the radio. No matter how great you think they are or your mom thinks they are, they can't compete. So hone your craft. Make sure that your recordings are quality. Like I said, you're going to have to spend some money, but what you want to do is you want to take a bunch of demos that you've recorded for, $250, $300, and sit down with someone that you trust and see which song might have the best chance. And then if it needs to be rewritten, rewrite it. If it definitely will need to be re-recorded for radio, toss them out to your audience. See which ones are resonating with them. But don't go in the studio and spend a whole bunch of frickin' money and then go expect me to like it. You know, most young artists are not rewriting their songs. There's very few songs in Nashville by hit songwriters that don't get at least rewritten a couple times. They take it, they live with it for a little while, they feel what happens. But if you want to be treated from radio like because you're competing, you're asking them to play you and not to play somebody else from a label. So you want to be able to make sure your website looks smoking, that it's awesome, that you're active on social media, that you're engaged, that the only way that they could tell that you are not already signed to a major label was because you told them. Not because your packaging looked shoddy, not because your quality of your recording sounded like crap, not because of the fact that your website looks like your uncle did it for you for free. You want to present yourself like a rock star, and you want to be taken seriously, you have to present yourself seriously. So also too, make sure that you've got at least 45 minutes of material that you can play, because when you walk in and they dig you, they may have you playing over and over and over again. So don't get excited about one song and think you're ready for radio tour, because you're not. Until you're ready, don't put yourself in a position for them just to check you off the list, because they're not looking for reasons to say yes right now. They're looking for reasons to say no, because it's very crowded. Don't give them any. All right, this has been 25 minutes from Nashville, and I appreciate you. If you have any other questions, you can always email me, rick@rickbarker.com. Remember, I also do, if this is the first time you're watching me, Lord help you, I would love for you to comment and subscribe below, and then also go get the free video series from my website, musicindustryblueprint.com. You guys have a great one, and we'll chat soon. See ya.